Good morning, Class 2H. Today, we are learning in English or remembering in English the difference between a fiction and a non-fiction book. I wonder if you've learned some of these words already. I'm sure you've come across them. I know we've used them in our Google Meets. So let's remind ourselves and fully understand the difference between the two. We group the books that we read into genres or categories. If you visit the library or the bookshop, you will see that the books are grouped together according to their genre or category. And this makes it easier for you to find what you're looking for. The two most important genres that we use are fiction and non-fiction. So a book belongs to one of these two categories. It is either a fiction book or a non-fiction book. So fiction and non-fiction, what is the difference? A fiction book contains a made-up story. It comes from the imagination of the author. And a non-fiction book contains true facts and information. And I think what we've been learning about in English this last week falls into this category. Say a recipe book or an instruction manual, a how-to manual, are very good example of non-fiction books containing true facts and information. So let's quickly look at the features of a non-fiction book. Remember, these are books that contain stories created from the imagination of the author. They are not real. They tell a story. They have characters and settings, which we know all about. We covered that in one of our very first topics in Term 1. They have illustrations or pictures. They have a problem that must be addressed and then a solution to that problem at the end. And they need to be read in order. You have to read from beginning to middle to end. You can't pick up a fiction book and start at the back because that gives away the ending of the story to you. So an example of a fiction, for example, fairy tales and nursery rhymes, picture storybooks, chapter books, novels, all the kind of things we like to read in our spare time and get lost in a good story from somebody else's imagination. Can you think of any other types of fiction books? I think a good example is a comic book. I know a lot of you enjoy reading comic books. I think that's a really good example of another fiction book. It's made up, but it's written in a different style than a novel or a chapter book. All right, let's look at non-fiction books. So these are based in fact, and they give you information, and they're there to teach you or help you learn about different things. And they usually contain these features. They have real facts. They give you information. They will often have a contents page to direct you where in the book you want to go if you want to learn something specific. They'll often have a glossary, and a glossary is at the back usually, and is the list of the terms that are used in that book and the explanation. It's like a little mini dictionary. They'll have an index, they'll have headings and subheadings, diagrams with labels, and maybe even photographs. And a fun fact, as it says there, is that you don't have to read non-fiction books in order. You can pick it up, open it anywhere in the book, and you'll usually learn something from that page. So let's have a look at examples of non-fiction books. So a dictionary, history books or nature books, general knowledge and trivia, science books, recipe books, how-to books, and biographies and autobiographies. They're big words. Biographies and autobiographies are books written about a person's life, and it's either written by them, about them, or written by somebody else about them. So nonfiction isn't just for books. You might watch documentaries. You might read a recipe. They're also really good examples of nonfiction books. Can you think of any other types of nonfiction texts? What about a magazine? That often has real life information on it. One of my children's favorite things to look at is the little magazines that you can get when you go in the door of Toys R Us that have all the pictures of the toys on sale. So that's another example of a non-fiction. It's real information. All right, Class 2H, I hope you have learned loads about what is and isn't a fiction or non-fiction book, which books fall into those categories, and what are the differences between the two. So I'd like you to complete the two activities today on those two topics. Enjoy.